Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to tackle something pretty wild, even for college football. But first, a quick shout out to topnaturalhealth.com. They're sponsoring today's deep dive. Whether you're looking for, more energy, healthier aging, or just feeling top notch, they've got your back. Natural supplements, skincare, the whole shebang. And because you're listening, head over to topnaturalhealth.com. Use the code you'll find there, and bam, special discount just for you. Okay, now back to the mayhem. So, picture this. You're a star athlete, right? Dominating on the field, but none of the money you're bringing lands in your pocket. Used to be the reality for these guys, then NIL hit the scene, name, image, and likeness. Game changer, really. But new things, they come with hiccups. And that leads us to Matthew Sluka cautionary tale with, more than a few twists. We're going to break it all down, what happened, why it matters, and the lessons learned.
What's really fascinating about this whole thing is how NIL has completely reshaped college athletics. It's not just academics, coaches, the program's history anymore. Now, potential NIL money, that's a huge E factor in where these young athletes choose to play. Can you imagine 18 years old having to weigh those options?
Yeah.
Adds a whole other level of complexity.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about pressure. Which brings us to Matthew Sluka. This guy, talented quarterback, starts at Holy Cross, FCS level, so a step below the top tier, FBS, does well, but then transfers to UNLV, aiming for the big leagues, hoping to, get on those NFL radars.
That's a move, right?
On the surface, yeah, definitely. And we're seeing this more and more athletes using the transfer portal for better opportunities, both on the field and in terms of those potential NIL deals. Like free agency, but for college. It's exactly a whole new ballgame. And for Sluka, seemed like a good deal at first. But this is where things get interesting.
You said it. UNLV. They were in an interesting position themselves.
Oh, how so?
Well, rumors were swirling, you see, about UNLV potentially jumping from the Mountain West Conference to the Pac-12. Right. Bigger stage, more money, more exposure, and theoretically, more lucrative NIL deals for players. So when Sluka comes along, UNLV, they're already thinking big, aiming for a splash.
Wow, so they're playing chess, not checkers. I bet that factors into Sluka's decision.
It's definitely something to consider. Conference realignment, it's a huge deal in college sports. Big implications for NIL. Bigger the conference, bigger the potential for those high-dollar deals.
Makes sense. So UNLV's eyeing a power move, and here comes Sluka. Talented quarterback looking for a shot. Sounds like the perfect recipe for, let's just say a lot of money flying around.
Exactly. And that's where we start seeing the cracks,
Okay, let's talk about those cracks. What went down with Sluka and UNLV?
So, according to Sluka's people, UNLV made a verbal promise, offered him a $100,000 NIL deal to transfer. Now, key point here, not a formal contract, just verbal.
Right, handshake deal. Still, $100,000, that's not insignificant.
You got that right. And it highlights the first major issue, the lack of formal agreements in some of these NIL deals. Now, there's debate about a monthly stipend being part of this verbal deal, but again, nothing on paper.
Okay, so verbal agreement, big money, and a whole lot of ambiguity. Recipe for disaster, maybe?
You're picking up on it. And messy it got. Because, see, verbal agreement might hold some weight, proving it without anything written. That's tough. And that's key for anyone in the NIL world. Get it in writing.
So, did UNLV actually pay up the $100,000?
That's where it gets really interesting. Sluka received, get this, $3,000.
$3,000? Seriously, that's a far cry from $100,000. Talk about a letdown.
It really highlights the danger of these verbal agreements, especially with NIL being so new and, frankly, kind of wild right now. It's like the Wild West of contracts.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying verbal agreements are meaningless, but without that paper trail, it's he said, she said, a legal nightmare.
Right, becomes a question of who you believe, and that's not a good place to be, especially with that kind of money on the line.
So what did Sluka do? I mean, I can't imagine he was thrilled. He wasn't. And here's what we got to remember. There's a human side to all this, Sluka felt betrayed. Trust was broken. That lack of a written agreement, sure, it makes proving a breach difficult, but that feeling of being misled, that stings.
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling of getting the rug pulled out from under you, especially after you put your faith in someone, it's not just about the money, it's the principle.
Exactly. And for Sluka, that, combined with the whole financial disappointment, it led to a tough decision.
What'd he do?
After just 3 games with UNLV, he left.
He quit. Wow. Bold move. What happens in that situation? Lose your scholarship? Can you play for another team? So many questions.
Hold your horses. We're getting there. But Sluka's departure, there's actually more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Leaving after 3 games, that wasn't impulsive. It was strategic.
Us.
See, leaving at that point, it allowed him to preserve his ability to redshirt.
Redshirting. Now, for those of us who aren't college sports experts, what's that mean again?
Basically, it lets an athlete sit out a year of competition, but they stay on the team and, crucially, keep a year of eligibility, like hitting pause on their playing career, giving them an extra year to improve or recover from an injury, For Sluka, it means he gets a do-over on his FBS career, even after those few games.
That's a smart loophole, so he gets to reset.
Exactly. Redshirting gives him that option, which is huge. He can transfer to another school in 2025 with 4 years of eligibility left. Talk about regaining control.
Wow. Okay, so not a rash decision. He was thinking long-term. And this whole thing probably makes him more marketable, right? He's got a story now, standing up for himself, navigating this NIL minefield.
You might be onto something. This experience, it's given him a unique perspective, that's for sure. He's lived it, not just read about it.
He's a cautionary tale, but also kind of inspiring, for other athletes in a similar spot.
Absolutely. But let's not forget UNLV. Sluka leaving. It hit them hard, and the timing couldn't have been worse.
Right. They were undefeated when he left, nationally ranked for the first time ever. Talk about a punch to the gut.
Devastating. Scrambling for a new quarterback, losing momentum, the impact was undeniable.
So they're undefeated, nationally ranked, and then bam, Sluka walks. What happened next? Did UNLV pull themselves together?
Well, it definitely threw them off their game. Losing your starting quarterback midseason, never ideal. They still had a winning season, but championship dreams. Gone.
Brutal. But beyond the on-field stuff, this whole thing must have been a PR nightmare for UNLV, right?
Oh, absolutely. It became the poster child for what not to do in the NIL era. Made people question their whole operation, how they handle agreements, how they treat recruits, if they even get this new world of college sports.
A cautionary tale for both sides, then.
Exactly. And it reminds me, of other times industries went through these shakeups. The dot-com boom, late 90s, sudden money, everyone scrambling, not a lot of rules, led to some amazing things, but also a lot of bad deals, broken promises, and then boom, bubble burst.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Not saying NIL is going to crash and burn, but there are parallels, The Sluka case, it screams for clearer rules, more transparency, protection for everyone involved.
Makes sense. So what can be done? We can't just hit rewind on NIL, right?
Nope, it's here to stay, and honestly, good. College athletes deserve a piece of the pie. But we got to make sure it's fair, transparent, sustainable for the long haul.
Couldn't agree more. But before we wrap up, gotta ask, what about Sluka? His story's not over, is it?
Not even close.
Yeah.
He's actually in a really intriguing spot. Gets another shot at the FBS, redshirt year still in his back pocket, plus all this experience on and off the field. I guarantee you there are coaches out there seeing dollar signs, seeing that resilience.
Turned a major setback into, well, maybe an advantage.
Right. He's learned the hard way about advocating for himself, about the business side of the game, about making those tough decisions.
Talk about turning things around. And you know what? I think that's a good place to leave it for today. This whole story, it's about so much more than just one athlete or one deal. It's about the future of college sports, this crazy new world of NIL, and how to navigate it all. And speaking of navigating, big thanks to today's sponsor, topnaturalhealth.com. Whether you're looking for that extra edge or just want to feel your best, they've got what you need. Natural supplements, skincare, the works. And for our listeners, head over to topnaturalhealth.com, use the code you find there, and boom, special discount just for you. As for Matthew Sluka, we'll be watching. His deep dive might be over for now, but his story, it's just getting started. Until next time, keep asking him those tough questions, keep digging for answers, and keep diving deep.